What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Universal Mastery. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. Now, if you are new, by any chance, what I do here is I break down the occult sciences and I break them down to a very practical level so that you can simply use them and apply them in your day-to-day life and get real results with what it is that I am teaching here on my channel, simply by applying your observation and awareness, okay? Let me give you a little bit of a perspective of who I am, just so that you know who you're getting this information from. Once again, if you're new. My name is Jeremiah Schwartz. I am a professional occultist. I'm fully initiated in the entirety of the Kabbalistic tree, and I'm studied when it comes to the 22 major arcana that are associated with that same tree. And I'm also studied when it comes to planetary energies in direct regards to astrology. Okay? Now, what is the topic of our today's video? I know for a fact this is a profound topic. I've covered it slightly in other videos. If you go through my public YouTube channel, you will be able to put pieces together on this specific topic. But I'm basically going to go into a profound viewpoint that I have in regards to the real world that we live in on our planet today. Now, this viewpoint is not a random viewpoint that I just decided I want to adopt or want to have. This is something that I've been able to integrate from being receptive to essentially my unconscious and subconscious, the unknown. And this viewpoint has actually attracted itself to me. This is not something that I necessarily wanted to be true, so I found information that proved it. It was more so something that came to my doorstep and I opened the door and it was there. And it continuously showed me signs that this is what's actually going on in the real world today. So once again, what I'm going to be talking about in this video and what the topic's going to primarily be on is my viewpoint in regards to what's happening in the real world today. When we look at different mythologies, when we look at different religions and traditions that have been built up for thousands of years, why are certain religions, traditions, and mythologies set up the way they are? What potentially might be influencing these traditions, these mythologies, and these religions to set up the world in the way that it is? So I'm going to primarily be speaking about extraterrestrial awareness, okay? We could fall along the lines of the Anunnaki, the Elohim, just ETs in general. Extraterrestrial, something that is not necessarily from our planet, Earth, okay? I'm going to be speaking about my viewpoint in regards to why the world is the way that it is in our today's time, 2022, from an extraterrestrial, Elohimic, Anunnaki-like perspective, okay? From being a professional occultist myself, I'm going to cover the subject matter with my awareness, with my knowledge, with my wisdom and understanding. And I think that there are going to be a lot of people that resonate with this. And I think there are a lot of people that do not know about this perspective that I'm going to share, which could be very valuable. And I truly believe that this is going to be the perspective that will be adopted as we move closer to the ages in our civilization that would be considered the golden age. I think this is the overarching perspective that leads in that direction. Obviously, there's many years till we get there, but I think that this is, and I know this has correspondence to very profound truths within the self in regards to what I'm going to share. So if you want to know a little bit more about my perspective on what's happening in the real world, from an extraterrestrial Anunnaki ET awareness of how these things have influenced our today's time and what that results in, this is your video, so stay tuned. Okay, so this is the thing that fascinates me. We look at different mythologies, like the Enuma Elish, where you have Tiamat, the black dragon, the mother source of evolutionary chaos, who then is set up against warfare in battle against Marduk. Basically, Marduk is this hero figure representing some sort of solar figure that is out to destroy the mother of evolutionary chaos, right? Not only do we see the same mythology show up 4,000 and some years ago within Babylon, within Sumerian text, but we see the same concept show up in different mythologies as well. Okay, another one is within the Greek mythology, where you have Typhon, who essentially was created by Gaia, which would essentially be the Tiamat from this perspective, from the Greek perspective. And Typhon is out to basically avenge his mother, which would be the Tiamat. And then there's Zeus, that is burdened with the task of destroying Typhon. Okay? So the Greek mythology and the Enuma Elish differ in their characters, differ in the actual story behind it. But if you look at the underlying patterns, they're very similar. It's always like some force, some feminine force of evolutionary dark motherly chaos is always being warred against. And there's always dragon, serpentine correspondence to this motherly evolutionary source of chaos every time. And it's always, once again, it is always warred against by another, usually solar-like figure that is meant and intentionally programmed to destroy the chaotic motherly source of chaos, to essentially establish order. Okay? So we see this reoccur over and over and over again, and then eventually, and once again, I mentioned the Enuma Elish, and I mentioned the Greek pantheon in regards to the Titans and the Olympians with Zeus and everything. There are other traditions, there are other pantheons throughout time that reflect this same pattern. Okay? Going back, I would say roughly about 10,000 years ago. Okay? From our time now to roughly about 10,000 years ago, anywhere from our time now to 10,000 years ago, we see this similar pattern manifest itself in these different stories, in these different traditions, in these different mythologies. So then it brings up the question eventually of why? Why is this motherly source of chaos, force that is draconian in nature, why is it being demonized consistently? Why is it being destroyed? Why isn't it being embraced? Why isn't it being understood? What's going on here? And I have a personal perspective on that in regards to the cycles of evolution. I think evolution on our planet Earth, and just even in a macrocosmic way, I think evolution is always going to go through rises and falls, meaning you study the evolution on planet Earth, there have been many planetary, you could say, resets that have taken place in regards to whole civilizations getting completely wiped out in basically a short period of time due to evolution. I don't think there's anything wrong about it. I don't think there's anything evil about it. I think that's how evolution functions. Okay? It's the process of evolution. I mean, it's the same thing you deal with in your day-to-day life. There are things that make you feel good that you could consider positive. There are things that make you feel bad that you can consider negative. Although there is positive and negative, good and bad, they're both important for your evolution as a spirit, as a soul, and as a physical body. Okay? So when it comes to periods in evolutionary history on our planet Earth, where the Earth has been, essentially the civilizations on the planet have primarily been wiped out, is that a bad thing or a good thing? I don't think it's a bad or good thing. I think it's an evolutionary process. which in my perspective is a good thing. I mean, evolution is evolution. You always want to go in evolution and embrace it fully. So my thought, maybe, this is speculation, this is nothing written in stone, this is just my personal perspective. My thought is maybe during one of the periods of evolutionary history, I mean, if you study Graham Hancock's work, who is a archaeologist who looks very intently into the time frames when there has been mass resets on our planet, he's been in the field for many years, very trusted source of information, definitely look into his teachings. He talks about roughly around 12,800 years ago, that was when we went through our most recent big reset on our planet Earth. And then sure enough, you see all these different mythologies and traditions, religions that sprout up after this big reset about 12,800 years ago, roughly. Then you see all these different, as I said, traditions, religions, mythologies stem up about destroying chaos, destroying the motherly source of evolutionary chaos. These things stem up after that big reset, which is fascinating. It's almost as if there is a deep unconscious, subconscious fear within the human species of that evolutionary cycle that naturally will always take place, which is the big reset. You know, this is something that will always take place in the real world. No matter how you want to view it, good or bad, no matter if you think you can prevent it or stop it from taking place, it's always going to happen. It's how evolution has to function from a source evolutionary perspective. So I think unconsciously and subconsciously, the human species may have developed this fear of chaos, this fear of that force that causes those evolutionary destructive periods on our planet today. And I think tied into this fear is also something extraterrestrial. I think there's something extraterrestrial that's at work that is fueling this unconscious and subconscious fear in the human species intentionally to create these types of mythologies and these types of religions and traditions that demonize the unconscious and the subconscious of the human being, or demonize the Tiamat, or demonize the Typhon, or demonize the dark, motherly, draconian source of evolutionary chaos. I think there is something extraterrestrial that we could call Elohimic, we could call Anunnaki-like, something extraterrestrial and interdimensional that is totally influencing this separation within the mythology. Because whatever it is that is influencing the human species to create these mythologies where you demonize the source of evolutionary chaos, what you can then do is you can artificially program an entire mass collective. You can basically artificially program an entire multiverse because everyone is worshiping a mythology or a tradition or a religion that literally separates the unconscious and the subconscious away from the conscious perspective. So, in a nutshell, this separates the personal unconscious and subconscious of the human species from their conscious perspective that's then being directed towards something solar and something that's telling them what to believe, which would be the Marduk, which would be the Yahweh, which would be the Jesus, which would be the solar figure. Many different types of solar figures, Zeus. And if there's something extraterrestrial that's influencing this on the mass collective today in the real world, it would only make sense that they're doing this because they recognize higher level scientific properties, and they're doing it strategically and intentionally on our planet to take energy from the human species and send it back to their species, these extraterrestrial beings. Okay? So in a nutshell, it's almost like there's this extraterrestrial influence that is purposely confusing ritualistically the awareness of the human species through these types of mythologies that separate the unconscious and the subconscious away from the conscious, and strategically has the human being worship these religions, worship these mythologies, worship these traditions that further represses their own chaos in their body, which is connected to their unconscious and subconscious, which then manifests artificially, creating chaotic behaviors. Meaning, because they're not embracing their own chaos, they're not processing their own essentially darkness. They're not processing their own unconscious and subconscious. So their behaviors are chaotic because they're not processing, therefore not understanding. And if there's something extraterrestrial that's influencing this on our planet, which I 100% believe, and this is my view on the real world, it makes sense that they would strategically, these artificial, or not artificial necessarily, but these extraterrestrial, Elohimic, Anunnaki types of beings, it would make sense that they are strategically doing this on our planet Earth to be able to take energy from the mass collective, from the human species, because they know that they can do that if the human species is artificially programmed by moralistic programs. Meaning, within these religions that worship the solar figure, within these mythologies and these traditions that revere and worship the solar figure and demonize the chaos, the source of evolutionary chaos, that feminine energetic current, it's much easier to program a human being who consciously represses their unconscious and subconscious, because the programming is done unconsciously and subconsciously. So if you can train a mass collective to be unaware and consciously resist and repress their unconscious and subconscious, then you can start using dark energy, unconscious and subconscious programming on them, and they won't even know it, and completely psychically hypnotize an entire population. And not only that, you can start taking energy from the human species because they're artificially programmed. Basically, they're like artificial intelligences. The soul is feminine. The soul resides actually within the unconscious and the subconscious. So if you take a human being and separate them from their unconscious and their subconscious, you're literally separating them from their soul. And this is where the whole idea of the Qliphothic realm comes into play when we're talking about the Kabbalah, shelling of the soul. Okay, this is why you see so much Qliphothic ritualistic symbolism in all of the mainstream medias, especially within movies, within music videos, and everything else, because there's people that understand this shelling process and that are using it on many different people. I use it myself. Okay, it's easy to shell somebody, and I can gain huge amounts of energy from it. And I'm not here to change the game. I'm not here to change the wheel. I'm down for it. I use it. It works for me. I'm fine with it. But at the end of the day, I'm building up my empire and I'm sharing this information. And some people are going to be thankful that they're getting this information from me, and then they're going to join my empire. And that's why I share the information. It increases my empire. Okay? Once again, I'm not here to save you. I'm not here to change the game. It's the process that's taking place right now. I see the process, and it fascinates me. Okay? And I also think there's a lot of mistakes that some of these people are making that use dark occult sciences in regards to strategically programming people to think one thing than using dark arts on them to take energy from them. I think there's a lot of mistakes these people are using because at the end of the day, the source of evolutionary chaos needs to cause evolution for this planet. And we're at a specific point in time where that can't continue to take place on our planet. What I mean by that is the artificial programs, the reverence and the worship of the solar entity and the demonization of the source of chaos can't continue to take place because the human species needs to embrace their unconscious and subconscious to cause planetary evolution, specifically on our planet. And that's where we find ourselves in this point of time. That's why there's so many volcanoes erupting. There's so many earthquakes that are happening, so many wildfires that are taking place. As we speak right now in the real world, so many winter storms. These are all things associated with draconian energies, dragons, which are primordial aspects of that dark, motherly source of evolutionary chaos. Dragons. They're literally freeing themselves energetically and psychically speaking on this planet today, almost as if the planet has been artificially programmed by something extraterrestrial thousands of years ago. But once again, can that continue to take place for evolution to further evolve on our planet? No, it can't. That's where we find ourselves in today's time. Okay, we're at a strange point in time right now. But once again, what I'm saying is that my perspective on the real world today is totally that there is something extraterrestrial. There is something Elohimic. Elohim represents the powerful ones. It is not a single being. It is powerful ones, which is extraterrestrial in nature. I mean, just say the word Elohim and you can just think of something extraterrestrial. May not even be physical like we are. Most likely it's not. It's like a transcendental, highly intellectually advanced species of being, yet very different than what we are in regards to their existence is way different than our existence on planet Earth. Yet, because of their awareness of transcendental sciences and certain universal principles, you could even say, this extraterrestrial species has obviously been able to create a multiverse on our planet to literally strategically harvest energy from our planet. And you may be listening to this and there are literally movies that show these concepts. You may have a movie pop in your head right now that's like, wow, I watched a movie that was very similar to what Jeremiah is saying right now. I read a book that talked about similar concepts about this subject. This is something that's deep. This is something that's within the unconscious and subconscious of, I believe, every single human species. Okay? And a lot of you listening to this may have contemplated this idea before. Maybe you've never heard it before, and this is where it is. But this is my perspective. I mean, once again, as a professional occultist who has, embraced and has embodied, some of the darkest forces you can imagine. I mean, the entire Clipothic realm. I'm talking Napaht, Lilith, Adrammelech, Samael, Asmodee, Lucifuge, Lucifer, Beelzebub, Belial, Satan, Moloch. I mean, these are demonic dark forces that have a lot of wisdom, understanding, knowledge, and power in their own entity structure. And I'm sharing this perspective as someone who's approached these forces and has taken on their power, has taken on their awareness. And these are some of the ideas, and these are some of the perspectives that have been installed in my awareness from doing that. I'm not speaking as a random person here. I'm not speaking as somebody who's read a couple books and this is my perspective based off the information. This is something that I've studied, definitely have studied literature, have studied knowledge, I've studied other people. But first and foremost, I dove in to communication with a lot of these dark forces that have power in their own right, that have information that is beyond what most people can gain access to just in the physical plane, meaning you have to travel interdimensionally to be able to receive information from some of these dark forces. And everything that I've been able to receive and embrace is pointing to this perspective that I'm sharing here. So this is why I'm creating that context, just so you know who you're really getting this information from. Okay? Now, I believe, once again, the multiverse on our planet thousands of years ago has been structured artificially. And I think in our today's time, the most profound way to install artificial awareness into the human species is through the morals, meaning this is what's good and this is what's bad for the society. Whoever programs the morals within you is programming your awareness. You're not necessarily listening to your intuition, and you're not tuning into your unconscious and subconscious. You're waiting to be told something to believe it and then act off that belief. That's called being programmed. Okay. And obviously, morals get deep because there's obviously going to be truths mixed in with evolutionary principles that will destroy you. So, when it comes to morals, there are things that are important, things that are valuable, but then they're mixed in with other things that will actually energetically destroy you. And that's how these programs are ran, artificial programming. And that's just one way. That's one way, okay? Primarily, when you're told what to believe by anybody, when you're consciously told this is how you should think, this is what you should believe, this is what other people are doing, and that's why you should believe this, you are being programmed artificially. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. You are being programmed artificially. And when you get programmed artificially, you now have set yourself up for being food, energetically speaking, for people like me who use the dark arts, who use dark forces, dark energetic forces on beings that are artificially programmed to destroy, you could say, their artificial awareness, and then take the energy from that human being or that target. Because when you destroy someone's artificial programming, that puts them through pain, it puts them through suffering, it puts them through psychological torture, which is all energy, huge amounts of energy. And if I'm the source of that psychic warfare, I gain your power, I gain your energy from your pain and your suffering. It comes to me. And these concepts are literally shown within movies, TV shows, okay? And yet, in religious programming, you're told to stay away from dark energy. You're told to stay away from sending out psychic warfare. You're told to turn your cheek and pray for your enemies. Wish them the best. Okay. Meanwhile, there's people like me out here that are gaining huge amounts of power and energy off of your ignorance. And I'm not saying that I use psychic warfare on innocent people intentionally. It happens. It naturally happens. When you do what I do, you have that energy field. It happens. But I use it strategically. I use it on people that are quote unquote powerful, that are doing what I do, just not in touch with evolution the way I am. And I suck them dry. That's why I get huge amounts of power. I use it very strategically. Okay. So I'll see somebody who uses dark arts. And if they're not on the evolutionary level that I'm at, I can use it on them. So that means every single person they've been able to damage, psychically speaking, all the power they've gained from that, once I use it on them and I break them down because they're not in alignment with evolution, they're just doing it to gain the financial benefits, the status, the reputation, the sex, the money, then I can break that target down. Because I'm more so in alignment with evolution, more so in alignment with the source of evolutionary chaos, and I gain all the power from it. The deeper you get, the darker you get, the more powerful you become, yet the more in touch with evolution you are as well. Okay? It's sort of similar to the Witcher series on Netflix, where you have this dark demonic man who's a warrior, He's basically, a killer, yet he's killing other monsters. Okay, he's killing off these other creatures that are demonic as well. Okay, and he's always successful in his operations because he's the Witcher. He's the one that's got a purpose. He's moving intentionally. He's moving towards the source. Now, obviously, there's a lot of other stuff embedded within the series of Witcher, but this is just a general concept that I'm trying to share from a TV show. I do the same thing. I would be the example of the Witcher who's destroying other monsters using dark arts, using psychic warfare, that are not using it evolutionarily speaking, using it for illusionary gains, and I rip them to shreds, gain all their power, gain all their energy. Okay? So this is what I'm saying, though. When you live in a world where the human species is artificially programmed, you can then damage them much more effectively using subconscious, unconscious, and dark energies. You can squeeze them dry. And this is what this extraterrestrial species has strategically done on our planet. And this is why the entire planet has been set up in that way, where people, through tradition, through mythology, through religion, can get programmed to repress their own unconscious and subconscious and only focus on the solar figure who acts as a hero oftentimes, who saves things. And all this is doing is separating the awareness of the human species away from actively their unconscious and their subconscious, and the extraterrestrial species that has programmed this into our multiverse on this planet, in the meantime, is able to gain huge amounts of energy because they're working through, you could say they're possessing certain individuals on our planet today that are in positions of power and positions of influence. So this is where it gets deep. This is where, you get into some of the government secrets, some of the hidden CIA files, or whatever the case you want to call it, where there is unclassified information, almost as if areas of our government are directly in association with extraterrestrial awareness and consciousness. And it would make sense that they 100% are, based on this worldview that I have, as if they're worshiping some sort of extraterrestrial species for illusionary gain, for reputation, for money, for illusionary power. And then someone like myself comes along, people like myself come along, who's in alignment with the source of evolutionary chaos, which is beyond extraterrestrials. Because extraterrestrials were created by this same force. I mean, look at the mythology of the Enuma Elish with Tiamat. She created everything, all the gods, all the Anunnaki. So when you're in alignment with that force, you have more power than anything else in regards to the multiverse and the megaverse. And the primary motive at that point is to increase your own power, simultaneously aid in evolutionary progress. Okay? And this is what sets it apart. And in order to really gain the power from this source of evolutionary chaos, you have to go through a process, which in the occult field is called initiation. But in reality, it's a process of really getting so far deep into your unconscious and your subconscious and completely eliminating your ego in that process. And it is a profound and it is a deep process that a lot of people do not successfully accomplish. That's how painful and how profound it really is. It is if this process was super easy and everyone was doing it, you would see a lot more people out here talking about what it is that I'm talking about. Yet there's almost none. There's almost none. A lot of people fail in regards to some of the deepest levels of spiritual self-development, initiations in the occult field is what we call it. A lot of people think they made it. A lot of people think they think they got the power, they think they got the truth, come to find out they've actually failed. A lot of people get into this level of embracing their unconscious and their subconscious, and it's so subtle that there are people that go through this initiation, they go through this process, and when they come out, you see their behaviors, and they're chaotic. Okay, they're still not embracing their unconscious and their subconscious. A lot of the times they're drug addicts, whether they're alcoholics or they have certain drug addictions outside of alcohol. A lot of the times they take on the role of being this solar figure that is similar to the Marduk. They take on a role similar to the Zeus, where they want to control everything. They want to be in control of everything as if they're the source of everything. And that's clear signs of somebody who's failed in their deepest and most unconscious and subconscious initiations. And it's a representation of somebody who is deep down unaware that they've even failed. And they're basically trying to grasp onto false senses of power however they can do it. They may have power based on how deep they went into the subconscious and unconscious, but they're not going to have as much power as the person that fully initiates properly, fully dies to their sense of self-importance, fully dies to their ego, and really embraces that motherly source of evolutionary chaos, that dark black dragon force. There are hierarchies to power. There's hierarchies to how deep you go into your own unconscious and your subconscious. Okay, I just want to make sure that's clear. But that's the dynamic. Those are the people that get in touch with that black dragon source of evolutionary motherly chaos. Those are the most powerful people on the planet today. That's literally why all the mythologies that we can date back up to around the 10,000 year range are primarily associated with demonizing that chaotic motherly source of evolutionary force, evolutionary transformation force. It's because there's something extraterrestrial that is trying to lock this force, this chaos force, this feminine, motherly, evolutionary, destructive force down. There's something extraterrestrial influencing, one, the building of an artificial multiverse, the Matrix, and also simultaneously locking down the Black Dragon, locking down the mass collective unconscious and subconscious. And that's how you control an entire population. That's how you control an entire civilization. And the funniest part is, this is a part of evolution. This naturally happens. This is a part of the cycles of evolution, meaning this was bound to happen. There is nothing you can do about it. It was bound to, this is what's always happened. Okay? And then on top of that, it's always going to change, meaning this artificial multiverse that we see ourselves living in now, it will change. And we are in a time frame, as I said right now, where it's starting to change drastically. Okay? From today's time to 1,000 years ago, there are some major changes that are taking place in regards to power structures, in regards to traditions, religious belief systems, mythologies even. People are starting to view mythologies differently. Okay? People are starting to embrace the feminine aspect of their own energetic being. They're starting to embrace the Black Dragon, the source of evolutionary chaos, because they have no other choice but to. You either embrace it or you get destroyed by it. That's literally the world we live in today. And the only thing that's preventing people from being really aware of that is something extraterrestrial that's influencing the creation of our multiverse to be inverted, to be artificial. And there are people that will die fighting for their artificial awareness. No, it's not my fault. It's their fault. This is what it is. It's your fault. You did this to me. It's the way the world's set up. Yet they're not looking inwards. They're not recognizing, although you live in an artificial multiverse, you can get out of that. And it all starts with embracing the unknown, which obviously is extremely uncomfortable. And that's what most people don't do. I mean, it's profound. It's a profound journey. Once again, if it wasn't a profound journey, you would see a lot of other people embracing it and speaking about these concepts, but you obviously don't. That's how profound and dangerous it is to go that deep in your unconscious and subconscious. Yet, that's how you actually free yourself from the matrix, from the multiverse, the inverted multiverse. And then you gain rulership over it. You gain mastery over it once you've done that. But there's a journey you have to go on to gain mastery over it. It's not just handed to you on a plate. Okay, you have to go through it. So this is my perspective. This is literally how I view the real world today, how I view what's going on in the world today. The world has been programmed through traditions, through mythologies, through religions, and other different areas as well, different avenues and aspects, to be artificially programmed, specifically so that certain people that are directly influenced by this extraterrestrial species can basically be the rulers on our planets, using the dark arts, the subconscious and unconscious sciences on the people that were artificially programmed, existing ignorantly in the multiverse, so that this extraterrestrial species can gain the power from the people that are possessed by them, and then bring that energy back to that species, the Elohim, the Anunnakis, the extraterrestrials, whatever you want to call them. And once again, we find ourselves now in a time where there are human beings like myself who have recognized this, who have realized unconsciously and subconsciously primarily that something's very off, something's very wrong in the real world today. And then you have someone like myself that embraces the tree of knowledge of life and death, the one thing that Adam and Eve were told to not eat from. And I take a bite from this apple, I figure out there are forces, there are entities that are extremely dangerous. They're dark in nature, yet they're directly associated with my own unconscious and subconscious and other avenues of the multiverse and megaverse, the universe itself. And they start giving me power. They start giving me wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, because the way I'm embracing them is with that intent of taking their power and taking their awareness, their knowledge, and understanding. And over time, I realized that it's these same dark forces that are, by their nature, consuming energy. They're dark energies. They consume. They're vampiric in nature. Yet when I started embracing them, I started to develop those same vampiric qualities, where then these forces no longer could harm me. And I started having the ability to do the same thing that these forces do. And I realized the world that I was living in, where I can take energy from artificial programmed human beings. And on top of that, what's more value is I can take it from the people that are using these dark forces from a non-evolutionary perspective, which gives me huge amounts of energy, huge amounts of power. And I'm not the only person on the planet that knows this and that is doing this, but there are very few people that know this and are doing this, and that's a fact. And that's what's going on. That's the real world we live in. Okay, so this is my perspective. Once again, this is my perspective. This doesn't mean it's your perspective, but if you found value in this awareness that I'm sharing, maybe you can adopt it to something in regards to your perspective. It's food for thought. Other than that, I'm going to wrap it up there. Ladies and gentlemen, if you enjoyed this video, hit the thumbs up right there. Also, make sure you hit the notification bell, because I post videos as often as I can. And obviously, with content like this, you don't want to miss out. Okay, notification bell. Then come here and hit the subscribe button, because I love to see my subscribers shoot through the roof. And obviously, the more subscribers, the better. So hit the subscribe button. Make sure, if you watch my YouTube channel and you are not yet subscribed, hit the subscribe button. Okay. And then come down here, go ahead and add me on Instagram. My handle is JER_477. Very simple to type in. And you'll also see that I post content that is interesting. So add me there. Then if you come down into the YouTube description, scroll down just a little bit, you're going to see a post that says Facebook community. Click that link and then follow where the link takes you, and it will take you to where you can join a private Facebook group, which most likely you will find yourself surrounded by like-minded individuals. Okay, if that's something you're interested in, request to join the private Facebook group. Right now, it's very active. There's over 300 members. I'll leave that there. And I also want to say this. If you have any family, friends, or social media platforms that are interested in this type of occult information, you have my full permission to copy and paste the link of this YouTube video and any of my YouTube videos and share it publicly. Once again, the intent is to spread the information like a wildfire to increase my YouTube channel. So go ahead and do that. Okay. Now, the next thing that I would like to say is the most important thing. Go down into the YouTube description, and it is the first link at the top. Literally right next to it says Patreon, because that's where my Patreon is. Now, as you join the Patreon, what you gain access to is an entire vault of exclusive content that is not on my public YouTube channel for many different reasons. And at this point, it is almost like a secondary YouTube channel. Very valuable information, very valuable content in the form of live streams, blog posts, occult practices, information through video format on the Kabbalistic tree, the 10 spheres of the Sephiroth, and the 10 spheres of the Qliphoth. For tier 3 and up, you gain access to an entire magic training course, which takes you through all the different tools you need to be successful in your psychic developments, as well as the process that we go through, starting with summoning dead magicians, taking their power, summoning angels, taking their power, summoning demons, taking their power, moving into casting a low magic spell, which I demonstrate all on camera for you, teach you how to do, and then I show the real results of my low magic spell becoming physically manifest, all on video format for tier 3 and up of the Patreon. Then for tier 4, this is literally the most popular tier on my Patreon for many different reasons, okay? This is called the Universe B Vampire Service. So for the new participants of this top tier service, tier 4, what I do is I use occult technology to completely transform your energetic field. Okay, I completely transform your energy body to be more Universe B dominant. So basically what this means is you are then able to pull in, you are able to receive energy from your environment, and even in your physical body and your energy field, you start to feed or pull in energy from dark energy, from chaos around you. So basically what this means is chaos and dark energy becomes your main source of energetic power and self-development. Okay, this is why it's called the Universe B Vampire Service, which then gives you access to exist in Universe B in regards to our multiverse, which prevents you from getting detrimentally harmed in Universe B, because it's going to force you to start embracing your unconscious and your subconscious. Once again, it's the most popular tier on my Patreon for many reasons. I'm going to leave it there. If you're interested in it, look into the Patreon, first link in the description. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen who are a part of the Patreon specifically, I highly appreciate all of you for taking your knowledge, your practices, and your studies to that other side. Huge shout outs. Okay. Now, the second link below is where you can book a tarot card reading with me. Once again, the second link in the YouTube description. So on this tarot card reading, I can literally pinpoint exactly where you are located on the Kabbalistic tree, tell you what you're experiencing in the present moment, and then give you information on what to expect moving into your near and long-term future. Okay. All because I understand the Kabbalistic tree very well, and I can literally use the tarot deck to pinpoint where your current position is on that tree itself based on your unconscious and subconscious initiatory journey. So if this is something you're interested in gaining awareness of, book a tarot card reading with me, second link below. I've done tons of readings, over 250 for the short amount of time that the service has been out. I get tons of feedback. Once again, if you're interested in, second link below. Okay. Now, for the third link below, this is where you can become a YouTube member. As you become a YouTube member, you gain access to the exclusive emoji program that is designed to be used for psychic warfare. So in a nutshell, what this means is I've created an emoji system using my own tarot deck to create it and other emojis that I've designed myself. And it's designed to be used for psychic warfare in the most simple form ever. You can literally, once you get used to it, you can type something out in about 5 seconds using the proper configuration, link in a target of your choice, and then send it in the group community post for the YouTube members, and it will literally cause psychic damage to that target. Very profound, very simple. So yeah, all accessible at tier 3 as you become a YouTube member, and you gain access to a bunch of other benefits and values as well. Okay, so I'm going to leave it there. Ladies and gentlemen, I appreciate you, and I hope you all have a wonderful rest of the day or night, wherever you are, and I will see you on the next video. Peace.